If you want to live your best life, then you need to pay attention to what I will be discussing today. Your 24 character strengths impact your thoughts, they affect your emotions, and as a result, your actions and your habits. And it has a huge role, or it can play a huge role in helping you to create an environment for healing from whatever condition that you might be facing. So I'm going to be discussing what character strengths are, how it can help you, how it has helped my own clients. But I'm going to start off with a story. And so this will give you an idea as to how it can actually play out in real life. So each of us have 24 character strengths, right? And they are different from our unique skill sets, our talents, and our interests, because they reflect the real you, right? At the core, who you really are. And each of us possess all of these 24 character strengths, but in varying degrees and combinations, which is why we will all have unique strength profiles, right? So when my daughter was about 8 years old, this was many years ago now, I had to take her off gluten and dairy and a few other foods, right? So she was suffering from extremely severe eczema. She was on a medication to help her manage her condition. And I figured that food had a huge role to play, and I took the help of functional medicine, a practitioner, and I was trying to get her eczema under control, and diet was a big part of that. However, she was having trouble staying off gluten in particular. So she had stayed off it for a while, but she was a child, and it's hard, when you actually see somebody having something that you want or that you like, to stay off. It's hard for anyone, right? And once or twice she had given into temptations, and as a result, what had happened is her skin had flared up, and by the time I realized it had happened a couple of times, I remember she was already on medication, so it should have been under control. However, something was going wrong. And when I had a chat with her, I realized that she had given into temptation, and she had a couple of sandwiches from her friends, and because they were having it in front of her, and it had affected her health. She was only 9 at that time. And in a situation like this, just being scared of what it might do to your body, or just knowing the consequences is just not enough to sustain these kind of changes, right? To resist giving into these kind of temptations when you know it's going to affect you. So we sat down together. We sat down with a list of her character strengths, and I made her reflect on her character strengths, right? So the strengths are in an order of your top strengths to your lower strengths, or strengths that you don't use that often, or to that effect. And I made her reflect on her top 4 to 5 strengths, maybe 7, and I asked her to pick out 2 or maximum 3 strengths that she wanted to use and she thought could help her stay off gluten and resist any kind of temptations in the future. And she identified 3 of them. One was love, the second was forgiveness, and the third was kindness, right? And then I made her tell me as to how she saw herself using these strengths, right? Because again, each of us are unique, we use them in different ways. So she came up with that, she would use the strength of love when she felt like, having wheat or, any kind of product. She would use the strength of love by reminding herself how much she loved her own body, and that her way of showing her love for her body would be to not have that, right? So not have that particular food product. The second strength that she wanted to use was forgiveness, and the way that she identified that she would be using this strength was that if she made a mistake at any point in time, she did something and she knew that, it would help, because we all do that, right? She would forgive herself for that, making that mistake. So she would use her strength of forgiveness. And note that these were her top strengths. So these were in the top 5 strengths. And finally, she would use the strength of kindness, once again, being kind to herself, being kind to her body, and showing it by not having gluten or not having any wheat. And this is an exercise we had done then, and even after 7 years or so, she's still off specifically gluten, which does not suit her at all. She's still off gluten, and that's something that she's never really gotten back into. The kind of awareness that comes from knowing what your strengths are and how you can use them is just transformative, right? So when you're actually trying to heal from any chronic condition, when you're trying to manage your condition, when you're trying to create health, right, remove some of the triggers, when you're trying to make some changes, one of the most important things that you need to do first is to lay the foundations for creating good health, rather than jumping into all kinds of changes, removing triggers, diet. A lot of times, and these can be the foundation, of course, we need to understand what are the things that we need to focus on. There might be 20 triggers that your body is reacting to. Can you really remove all 20 or address all of them at the same time? No, it's a recipe for overwhelm, right? So laying the foundations is really important. And so rather than getting a test, focusing on maybe vegetables, maybe you want to add in animal protein, maybe because your body is not getting enough protein at this point in time. So again, maximize, minimize and prioritize are the three things that you do first when you're trying to lay the foundations of good health. If you're joining me live, welcome. If you have any questions, just put in the comment box below. And so the maximize is about adding things that your body may not be getting enough of, right? So raw materials, maybe certain nutrients that your body is lacking right now. So focusing on all of that, maybe focusing on getting enough water, hydration, minerals in foods, antioxidants, right? Protein, healthy fats. So all of these have to be maximized, depending on what your body needs right now. Minimizing, of course, is removing certain things, taking out what is harmful. So it might be that you need to remove certain products because they contain toxins or infections or some allergens that you're getting exposed to, maybe taking them out from your diet, from your environment. So all of these are things that you minimize. Stress, of course, is a big one, right? So as much as possible. And finally, and I think one of the most important things that you can do is prioritize. So you create an environment for healing, right? So that means that you prioritize sleep, that you prioritize rest, laughter, pleasure, obviously managing your stress, exercise, maybe breathing practices, meaningful relationships, joy, right? Positive beliefs in your own body's ability to heal. So all of these have to be actually prioritized, right? So this is where a lot of times we fall short. We focus on foods, we focus on our diet, we focus on maybe getting supplements, we focus on getting a lab test done. So we do all of that, but we forget that we need to understand what's going on and to prioritize what are the things that I need to focus on first, right? What are the key areas that I need to work on, so that I am supporting my body's ability to heal. Because when you provide that kind of environment, your body will heal itself. It by nature seeks wellness, right? But the problem is that we are not very good at doing these three things consistently. We are not very good at maximizing, we are not very good at minimizing, and we are certainly not really focusing on prioritizing. And this has to be done, of course, consistently. And not doing this on a consistent basis is what finally leads to chronic disease in the body, right? So modality that I follow, this is based on the principles of positive psychology, which tells us that only focusing on what is going wrong in your life is not enough for you to actually move towards health and wellness, right? So because what happens is, when we are dealing with any kind of medical condition, health condition, we are primarily focused on what's going wrong. When we go to a doctor, the first thing that, the only things that we end up discussing are symptoms, what's going on, what's not going well, but we are rarely asked to also reflect on what's going well, right? So character strengths are a part of that positive psychology, and I'm going to talk a bit about that now. So scientists have discovered a common language of 24 character strengths that makes up the best of what is best about your personality. It reflects who you are at the core, and everyone possesses these 24 character strengths in various degrees. So everybody has a truly unique character strength profile, right? So nobody has the same profile, and knowing what your strengths are can help you in many different ways. So a few ways that it can help you is it amplifies the good in yourself, your life, and others, right? It helps to focus on things that are going right, your own unique strengths, and it also helps you become more confident because you will become more confident as you stop comparing yourself to anyone else, right? The other way that it can really benefit you is to that spotting strengths in others can help you appreciate them and gives you a new insight into the other person, and as a result it improves your relationships, right? So these are just some of the ways that I wanted to touch upon. What are the strengths that come naturally to you, and then what are the strengths that give you energy when you practice them. So you will see that typically when you see your strength profile, these are the strengths that will be at the top. Also, another question that you can ask yourself regarding your top strengths, I am not focusing so much on the lower strengths right now because this is not a strengths class per se, but this just gives you an idea as to how you can use your strengths. So the other thing that you can ask yourself is, when you use your top strengths, does it feel authentic, right? And you will see that. So my top strengths are honesty. One of my actually topmost strength is gratitude, love of learning, and I can see that these are authentic. I mean, for example, if I take my own strength of love of learning, I'm constantly learning new things. I'm constantly reading books on know what your top strengths are. It can help you deal with your health issues. It can create an environment that supports healing, and it, more importantly, actually increases happiness because you acknowledge that your best strengths add a lot of value to your life, right? And even others for that matter. So let's take an example. Let's take an example of how this would play out if you were trying to basically incorporate healthy habits in your life or make any major changes. So for example, if you were trying to improve your health issue or from any kind of health condition, and typically the kind of people that I see in my practice are women with autoimmune conditions and other chronic conditions, so they have to go off gluten, dairy and sugar. These are the, and some other foods of course, but if we just take the example of this, it is hard for most people to go off gluten and dairy in particular, and even sugar for that matter. But anybody with an autoimmune condition would certainly have enhanced intestinal permeability, which has led to this gluten intolerance, and then the gluten itself leads to enhanced intestinal permeability. So so bottom line is that you need to be off gluten to start going down. So whatever the reasons are, if you're trying to go off, it's hard, right? So once again, the exercise that I just the story that I just shared with you about my own daughter, that's the kind of exercise that I do with my clients. So if you have your list of character strengths, you can actually ask yourself, what are the top 2 or 3 strengths that I can use to go off gluten and say, for example, stay with some other ingredients, right? So using a strength of curiosity, maybe using a strength of love for yourself, for your body, for your health, for your life, and making sure that you don't end up having gluten. And maybe one more can be creativity, right? Making different types of products with different kind of tastes and flavors. So if you're off dairy and gluten, what are the other things that you can make? What kind of desserts can you make, right? Or different food items you can make. There's so many different substitutes, alternatives. It's only when we start looking for them that we realize, which was my experience, that we realize there's so many options out there. It's just that options that we have, right? Typically we have a lot of options. So these are just some of the ways that you can use. I've given you a specific example. It is applicable to if you were trying to make any other changes. So if you were trying to improve your sleeping habit, maybe go to bed by 10 o'clock. Again, maybe just focus on a few of your strengths and figure out but you can get started today. You don't have to wait for anyone. You can get the survey done. I'm going to share a link. And again, this is something that I wanted to share, that you can use your strengths to create an environment for healing, right? So as you learn the areas that you need to prioritize, you can actually use this most powerful tool for creating that kind of environment and moving your body from disease to wellness, right? And to help you with this, if you have been struggling with figuring out what are the substitutes, what are the alternatives to gluten, dairy and other foods that you might be off, if you are already following an elimination diet or you've been planning to do that within super simple and easy for you to do that, to customize your diet. This is the list that I share with my clients inside my coaching program, and I'm giving it to you right here. It's a free guide for you, and you can just download it and it will save you hours, if not years of trial and error. It's taken me years to, over a period of time I put this together, to experiment and find alternatives. Of course, these products are those that are available in India. Again, the link is in the bio. You can just find that there and you can download the guide, and I'm going to share the link right here on Facebook, so you can get the free guide here. You can also, or you can head to aninditaroonta.com/shopping list. It's aninditaroonta.com/shopping list, and you can get your free guide.